Basic Terminology of Nichiren Shoshu, Video 9. Single Moment of Faith and Understanding, Ichinen Shinge. A single moment of faith and understanding is the first of the 4 stages of faith which are expounded in the Distinction of Benefits Fumbetsu Kudoko 17th chapter of the Lotus Sutra. The Daishonin teaches in, quote, on the 4 stages of faith and the 5 stages of practice, that both a single moment of faith and understanding and rejoicing on first hearing the Lotus Sutra, the first of the 5 stages of practice, are the most essential ways of practicing the Lotus Sutra in the latter day of the law. Both stages refer to the state of mind where one takes faith in the true law without having doubts upon hearing it. This enables the people in the latter day of the law to directly attain Buddhahood in their present form as common mortals, owing to the great power of the mystic law. The Daishonin expounds in the, quote, orally transmitted teachings, unquote, faith leads one to understanding. Understanding leads one to faith. However, faith is the determining factor for attaining Buddhahood. Gosho, page 1774. 6 stages of practice. This term refers to the stages of practice of the perfect teaching of the Lotus Sutra, which is expounded by the great teacher Tiantai in his Great Concentration and Insight, Makashikan. The 6 stages of practice was expounded to convince the practitioners that they possess the Buddha nature, and at the same time to encourage them to have the spirit of self-improvement while avoiding becoming arrogant by constantly reflecting on themselves. The 6 stages of practice are the stage of not yet hearing the law, the stage at which, in theory, all living beings inherently possess the Buddha nature, but they have never heard of the true law, nor do they possess accumulated merit from practice. The stage of first hearing the name of the law, the stage at which one hears the name of the law for the first time and learns that all phenomena are manifestations of the true law. The stage of observation and practice, the stage at which one practices according to the teachings and perceives the Buddha nature in one's own mind. The stage of purification of the 6 sense organs, the stage at which one eradicates the first 2 of the 3 categories of illusion, the illusion of thought and desire, and the illusions innumerable as particles of dust and sand, and purifies the 6 sense organs. This stage resembles the stage of enlightenment, the stage of eradicating fundamental darkness, the stage at which one eradicates all of the 42 levels of illusions except for the final level of fundamental darkness and progressively manifests one's Buddha nature. The stage of perfect enlightenment, the stage at which one finally eradicates the illusion of fundamental darkness and attains the ultimate enlightenment of the perfect teaching. The great teacher Tiantai expounded these different stages of practice for people in the middle day of the law so they could arouse the aspiration for enlightenment and attain Buddhahood. He also taught that they would reveal the Buddha nature in accordance with each stage of practice. Thus, those possessing the seed of Buddhahood were able to attain enlightenment by advancing through the 6 stages. However, since the people in the latter day of the law are those without the seed of Buddhahood, they are not able to attain Buddhahood with this step-by-step practice. A passage from the Gosho, quote, the teaching affirmed by all Buddhas of the 3 existences, unquote, states, since one attains enlightenment in one's present form at the stage of first hearing the name of the law, there are no sequential stages of practice in the perfect teaching. Gosho, page 1417. As this passage indicates, through embracing the Gohonzon and practicing true Buddhism, we common mortals will be able to attain enlightenment in our present form, even at the stage of first hearing the name of the law. Sole essential teaching. This is the doctrine of the Buddhism of the Sowing hidden in the depths. it indicates the Buddhism of the three great secret laws expounded by Nichiren Daishonin. The entity of the law is the Daigo Hunzen of the high sanctuary of the essential teaching. The Gosho, quote, on the true cause, unquote, Honim Yosho, states that both the theoretical and essential teachings of the Lotus Sutra in the Buddhism of the harvest expounded by Shakyamuni are the teachings of theoretical Ichinen Sanzen, 3,000 realms in a single life moment. Only the Myoho Renge Kyo propagated by Nichiren Daishonin, namely the Buddhism of the Sowing hidden in the depths of the lifespan of the Tathagata, 16th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, is the teaching of actual Ichinen Sanzen. It is the true essential teaching, or the sole essential teaching. The 26 High Priests, Nichiren Shonin, interprets the sole essential teachings from two different viewpoints in his, quote, interpretations based on the principle hidden in the depths, unquote. The first is the, quote, secret law hidden in the depths of the lifespan of the Tathagata chapter of the essential teaching, unquote. And the second is the, quote, sole essential teaching from the inconceivably remote past, unquote. The secret law hidden in the depths is the entity of the law hidden in the depths of the lifespan chapter, which was revealed after all the teachings were thoroughly compared and the inferior and provisional teachings were all discarded. The sole essential teaching from the inconceivably remote past is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, to which the true Buddha was instantly awakened in the inconceivably remote past. It is the absolute entity of the law, comparable to none other. 6-volume writings, page 94. As High Priest Nichiren Shonin indicates above, the sole essential teaching is the ultimate and unparalleled entity of the law, namely the Daigo Hunzen of the high sanctuary of the essential teaching. Sowing the seed of Buddhahood by letting one hear the law and attain an enlightenment by awakening faith in the sown seed. These two terms indicate the two interpretations of the benefit gained from sowing the seed of Buddhahood. Sowing the seed of Buddhahood by letting one hear the law means that the seed of Buddhahood is initially sown into the lives of people by the true Buddha of the infinite past of Kuan Ganjo. Attaining enlightenment by awakening faith in the sown seed means that the provisional Buddhas preached the law in order to enable people who were unable to realize the original seed to enter the Buddha way. Sowing the seed of Buddhahood 3,000 dust particle kalpas ago and 500 myriad dust particle kalpas ago corresponds to attaining Buddhahood by awakening faith in the sown seed. People in the former and middle days of the law could also attain enlightenment through awakening faith in the sown seed in the same manner. Since the people in the latter day of the law are those without the seed of Buddhahood, they will be able to attain enlightenment in their present form only by receiving the original seed of Myoho Renge Kyo from Nichiren Daishonin. The true Buddha, spanning the three existences, nurtures the people by means of the powers of the Buddha and the law. Sowing the seed of the true cause. This term indicates that the true Buddha of the infinite past of Kuan Ganjo sows the seed of Myoho Renge Kyo into the lives of the people for the first time. In the Buddhism of Nichiren Daishonin, Myoho Renge Kyo, the fundamental cause of attaining Buddhahood, is likened to the seed, while the people's hearts are likened to a field. The 26 High Priest Nichiren Shonin teaches in the commentary on the, quote, selection of time, unquote, that in the latter day of the law, Nichiren Daishonin propagates Myoho Renge Kyo and sows the seed of the true cause into the hearts of the people who do not possess the seed of Buddhahood. Sowing, maturing, and harvesting. This is the process by which the Buddha leads living beings to Buddhahood. It can be compared to the three phases of crop cultivation: sowing, maturing, and harvesting. A passage from, quote, Reply to Lord Soya, unquote, states, "The Lotus Sutra is like the seed. The Buddha is the one who sows, and the people are the field." Gosho, page 1040. Sowing is the initial phase when the Buddha infuses the true cause or seed of Buddhahood into the lives of the people. Maturing is when the Buddha develops and nurtures the seed of Buddhahood. Harvesting is when the Buddha enables the people to attain Buddhahood after the seed completely reaches maturity. This is just like harvesting the crop. The teaching of these three phases is expounded only in the Lotus Sutra. Nichiren Daishonin states, in quote, Letter to Akimoto, unquote, "The doctrine of sowing, maturing, and harvesting is the heart and core of the Lotus Sutra. It is only through the 5 characters of Myo, Ho, Ren, Ge, Kyo, the seed of enlightenment, that all of the Buddhas of the 3 existences and the 10 directions have attained Buddhahood." Gosho, page 1447. In the latter day of the law, Nichiren Daishonin sows the seed of Buddhahood, the 5 characters of Myoho Renge Kyo, into the lives of all living beings who do not possess the seed of Buddhahood. Thus, the Daishonin's teaching is called the Buddhism of the Sowing. Strict admonishment against slander of the law. Slander of the law indicates slandering the true law and not taking faith in it. Nichiren Daishonin states in the Gosho, quote, on revealing slander, unquote, slander of the law means, quote, to go against the true law, unquote, Gosho, page 286. Nichiren Daishonin defines slander of the law as any belief, speech, or behavior that is opposed to the true law. Though slander of the law has a broad meaning, it refers to acts that one should not commit. Quote, Reply to Lord Ueno, unquote, reads, "It is a grave offense to mix Nam-myoho Renge Kyo with other teachings." Gosho, page 1219. The Daishonin teaches in this Gosho passage that his teaching of true Buddhism must not be mixed with other religions. One must take faith exclusively in the Daishonin's Buddhism, no matter what happens. In the Gosho, quote, the crucial elements for attaining enlightenment, unquote, the Daishonin teaches, trying to attain enlightenment without admonishing slander of the law is like seeking water in fire or fire in water. Gosho, page 1040. The Daishonin urges us to refrain from committing slander against true Buddhism. He also encourages us to refute slanderous acts committed by others. Substituting faith for wisdom. This term means to substitute pure faith for all Buddhist practice. This principle teaches that the practice and merits expounded in the Buddhist teachings are all contained in faith. This is a doctrine of major importance in the Daishonin's Buddhism. It is impossible for people in the latter day of the law who have not yet carried out Buddhist practice in their lives to completely understand Buddhism with their own wisdom. Therefore, Nichiren Daishonin states, in quote, on the 4 stages of faith and the 5 stages of practice, unquote, because common mortals in the latter day of the law are lacking in wisdom when compared to those living in Shakyamuni's lifetime, they must substitute faith and practice for wisdom. Gosho, page 1112. Moreover, in the same Gosho, Nichiren Daishonin explains that practice in the latter day of the law is primarily based on faith. Therefore, those who have faith in true Buddhism are at the stage of first hearing the name of the law, the second of the 6 stages of practice. Thus, the people in the latter day of the law, even without wisdom, will be able to attain Buddhahood purely through faith in the Dai Gohanzen. Surface meaning of the words and the meaning hidden in the depths. The surface meaning of the words refers to the interpretation of the Lifespan Juryo 16th chapter of the Lotus Sutra from the standpoint of Shakyamuni's Buddhism of the harvest. The meaning hidden in the depths refers to the interpretation of the same chapter from the standpoint of the Daishonin's Buddhism of the Sowing. In the, quote, opening of the eyes, unquote, Nichiren Daishonin expounds that the true entity of the law of the simultaneity of cause and effect and actual Iching and Sanzen 3,000 realms in a single life moment, which was realized by the true Buddha of the infinite past of Kuon Ganjo, are concealed in the depths of the lifespan chapter. Gosho, page 523. Nichiren Daishonin inscribed the entity of the law in the form of the Daigo Hanzen of the three great secret laws. Teaching expounded by the Buddha according to his own mind, and teaching expounded by the Buddha according to the capacity of the people. The teaching according to the Buddha's own mind means that the Buddha expounds the teachings that are based on his enlightenment, irrespective of the type of audience he is preaching to. On the other hand, the teaching according to the minds of the people means that the Buddha expounds teachings according to people's character, capacity, and level of understanding of Buddhism. In the, quote, letter to Lord Nieki, Nichiren Daishonin states, the Buddha taught various sutras, taking into account the people's capacity. However, when the Buddha expounded the Lotus Sutra, he expounded the teaching according to his own mind, revealing the truth of his own enlightenment, making all people follow the will of the Buddha. Gosho, page 1365. The teaching expounded by the Buddha according to his own mind represents practice for the Buddha himself, while the teaching expounded by the Buddha according to the minds of the people indicates practice for others. In other words, the Buddha attained enlightenment by practicing the true law, and the Lotus Sutra is the teaching that he practiced for himself. However, when the Buddha taught and guided the people depending on their capacity, he expounded Buddhism according to the minds of the people using expedient means. Thus, the pre-Lotus Sutra and provisional teachings were elucidated for the purpose of teaching others. There is a passage in the Gosho, quote, on the meaning of the true entity of Myoho Renge Kyo, unquote, which states, in the infinite past of Kuon Ganjo, the Buddha who sows the seed of the true cause realized that his body was composed of the 5 elements of the mystic law, and he chanted Myoho Renge Kyo. Gosho, page 695. This describes the practice the true Buddha carried out himself and the enlightenment that he attained. In this case, Myoho Renge Kyo was what he chanted, and this is the teaching that the Buddha expounded according to his own mind. Teaching, practice, and proof. Teaching refers to the Buddha's teaching. Practice refers to the practice or method of practice based on the teaching. Proof refers to the proof of enlightenment obtained through the teaching and the practice. Generally speaking, in Buddhism, teaching, practice, and proof are explained in terms of each of the 3 periods of propagation after Shakyamuni's passing, the former, middle, and latter days of the law. The former day of the law possessed all 3, teaching, practice, and proof, whereas the middle day of the law, teaching and practice, still remained, but there was no longer any proof. Now, in the latter day of the law, only the teaching remains. There is no longer any practice or proof. Nichiren Daishonin teaches this principle in greater detail in his Gosho, Teaching, Practice, and Proof, unquote, as well as in, quote, On the Buddha's Prophecy, unquote, based on propagating the 3 great secret laws of the essential teaching. Nichiren Daishonin reached the conclusion that from the standpoint of Shakyamuni's Buddhism, that people born in the former day of the law could attain the proof of enlightenment due to their bond with Shakyamuni during his lifetime, or the superiority of the teaching. Some of those born in the middle day of the law could obtain the proof of enlightenment as well. However, in the latter day of the law, people cannot obtain the proof of enlightenment. The Daishonin teaches, In the latter day of the law, when there is no practice or proof, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, the lifespan Juryo, 16th chapter, the heart of the essential teaching, should be sown as the seed of Buddhahood for the first time in the hearts of all people. Gosho, page 1104. The doctrine of teaching, practice, and proof is taught in order to conclude that the Buddhism of the Sowing should be the teaching to be propagated in the latter day of the law. 10 factors. These are the 10 kinds of aspects that function as specific activities of life in each of the 10 worlds. Quote, factor, unquote, refers to things and events as they are, and it also represents the truth of the middle way. This principle is elucidated in the Expedient Means Hoben 2nd chapter of the Lotus Sutra as follows. What the Buddha was awakened to is the supreme, rarest, and difficult to understand teachings. The true entity of all phenomena can only be understood and shared between Buddhas. This reality consists of the appearance, nature, entity, power, influence, internal cause, relation, latent effect, manifest effect, and consistency from beginning to end. Page 89 through 90. Appearance is the outward manifestation of all things. Nature is the inherent quality of all things. Entity is the essence of all things. Power is the inherent ability of all things. Influence is the action brought forth by the inherent ability. Internal cause is the direct cause that produces the latent effect. Relation is the outside trigger that helps bring forth the latent effect. Latent effect is the effect produced by the unity of internal cause and relation. Manifest effect is the consequence to be found in the future from the unity of internal cause, relation, and latent effect. Consistency from beginning to end means that the 9 factors from appearance to manifest effect are applicable to all matters in this world as the common principle. All the factors are related to each other. The first 3 factors of appearance, nature, and entity represent the substance of all phenomena, while the remaining 7 factors, power, influence, internal cause, relation, latent effect, manifest effect, and consistency from beginning to end, are the functions that are inherent in the substance. Tiantai's doctrine of Ichinen Sanzen, 3,000 realms in a single life moment, is based on the principle of the 10 factors. Those possessing the seed of Buddhahood and those without the seed of Buddhahood. Those possessing the seed of Buddhahood refer to those who received the seed of enlightenment in the inconceivably remote past, while those without the seed of Buddhahood refer to the people who have never received the seed of enlightenment. Depending on the presence or absence of the seed of Buddhahood, the means to nurture and guide people varies. This concept, which is elucidated in the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra Hokkeki-mongo, explains that Shakyamuni Buddha nurtured people who had received the seed of Buddhahood in the inconceivably remote past. On the other hand, Bodhisattva never disparaging, Fukyo, sowed the seed of Buddhahood into the lives of people who had never received it, whether they sought it or not. The Gosho, quote, letter to Lord Soya Nyodo, unquote, states, now, in the latter day of the law, those who formed a karmic relationship with Shakyamuni Buddha during his lifetime had gradually declined in number, and those who had the capacity to attain Buddhahood through the pre-Lotus Sutra and the Lotus Sutra teachings have completely disappeared. This is the time when someone like Bodhisattva never disparaging Fukyo will make his advent and beat the poison drum. Gosho, page 778. This means that the people who were born during the 2,000 years of the former and middle days of the law possessed the seed of Buddhahood, which they received in the inconceivably remote past. Thus, they were able to attain enlightenment through the provisional teachings as well as through the Lotus Sutra of the Harvest. On the other hand, people in the latter day of the law who lack the seed of Buddhahood can only attain enlightenment through the Buddhism of the sowing of the true cause, the 5 characters of Myoho Renge Kyo, which is sown into the lives of the people by Bodhisattva never disparaging, namely Nichiren Daishonin, the true Buddha in the latter day of the law. 3 calamities and 7 disasters. The 3 calamities are famine, warfare, and pestilence. The 7 disasters, as stated in this sutra of medicine master Yakushi Kyo, are disease and pestilence, invasion from foreign lands, revolt within one's domain, irregularities among the stars and constellations, eclipses of the sun and moon, unseasonable wind and rain, and unseasonable dry weather. Nichiren Daishonin teaches that when people do not revere the true law and when heretical teachings, which are false doctrines and erroneous religions, run rampant in the land, various calamities and misfortunes will occur.